Perhaps the Minister for Finance doesn't understand that this, in fact, is a democratic assembly where people discuss and debate things. I know Sinn Féin don't take any interventions during the course of their speeches, but the reality is that this assembly is a democratic institution, and we debate things and we put down amendments. And you shouldn't be shocked by amendments. And our Minister expressed reservations at the executive meeting, and you well know that. The reservations of this party. So nothing comes as a shock or a surprise to the Minister for Finance or any other member of the Executive, or indeed any other member of this Assembly. We have clearly stated our position throughout. And of course, on the one hand, the Minister prides himself on getting all sorts of submissions from the public and asking them about all sorts of different changes to the budget. And then we come along and we make very reasonable propositions and very reasonable criticisms of the budget, and then he dismisses them. And he says we shouldn't be bringing them. We shouldn't be bringing them at all. Well, I will, but I hope I get more time.
I hope you do. I hope you do. Remember, if these amendments are serious amendments, the member refused to give way, Mr. Wilson.
No, I'm not.
Mr.
I'm
Maginness,
not giving way.
there is order.
Could I say
Order. Extra time is only given where the speech is of 5 minutes or less duration. Any speech over that time is exactly the time that's given, 10 minutes. Mr. Maginness.
Well, I hope, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I get extra time for all the interruptions. But could I say this is not a people's budget? Quite clearly it's not. It is a Thatcherite budget. There's no provision made for the Children's Fund. That's very clear. And incidentally, it's very interesting to read the Sinn Féin submission on the budget. What do they call for? An executive fund for children. Silence from Sinn Féin today in relation to that. We're backing that. Why don't they back us? Come into the lobbies with us and back us on that. And, of course, there's no clear lines of funding in relation to an anti-poverty strategy. No clear lines at all. We've heard about post-primary education. No provision made for that. The present Minister for Education, and I emphasise the present Minister for Education, has in fact said that it is cost neutral. I would like to see her assessments of that. I'd give way, certainly.
Thank you for giving way. The member will recall that on the 4th of December of last year, the Minister for Education announced we have an opportunity now to transform our education system into a world-class system fit for the 20th century. And as you have said, and indeed as the Minister for Finance has said, these reforms are to be cost neutral. In fact, the 3-year budget doesn't provide any line for key policy developments, including the reform of post-primary education. Will the member agree with me that it's very difficult to build a world-class education system fit for the 21st century when the money is not there to do it, when it wasn't even bid for?
Yes, I agree entirely. I agree entirely. And could I also agree with Mr. Cobain? He's left the chamber. I agree that in terms of water charging, clearly there is no clarity in relation to water charging and what is being planned. The reality is this: a water tax is being planned. They're going to sneak it through. They're going to sneak it through, despite all the protests from Sinn Féin's benches. They will sneak through, and as usual, they will simply bow down and accept it, because they're pushovers. That's the reality of the situation. And as far as social development is concerned, yes, the Minister has given extra money for social and affordable housing, yes, but it is not enough, Minister. It is not enough, Mr. Deputy Speaker. It will not, as Mr. Cobain has rightly pointed out, it will not reach the targets, the sample targets, because the Minister hasn't given sufficient funding to do that. It's a good improvement, but it's not good enough. And could I conclude by saying that a lot a lot of talk about asset disposal. I'm afraid you're putting your eggs into too many eggs into the one basket. What happens if the bottom falls out of the market? What happens if the international volatility continues?
Order.
What happens
Time.
if that whole strategy is
Time.
undermined?
Time. I call the chairperson of the Committee for Health, Social Services and Public Safety, Mrs. Iris Robinson. Mrs. Robinson.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'm afraid I'm going to be rather boring and mundane because I'm sticking to health issues, which I do not apologise for. The proportion of the overall executive expenditure on health and social care is highlighted in the budget, and the Health Committee concurs with the view that one of the most significant issues facing this and future executives will be the priority that should be given to health social services compared to other public services. The Health Committee devoted considerable time and energy over a 5-week period to examine the proposals in the draft budget in some detail. In addition to departmental officials and the Minister, the Committee took evidence from representatives of the 4 Health and Social Services Boards and the Mental Health and Learning Disability Board. The Committee recognises that the achievement of significant efficiency savings by the Department is absolutely essential if it is to be able to provide vital health and social care services. The Committee welcomed an unequivocal commitment by the Minister that he will deliver those efficiencies and meet the target of £343 million over the next 3 years. The Committee expressed very serious concerns about the ongoing delay in reaching a decision on the new structures to replace boards under the review of public administration. This is causing uncertainty, frustration and a loss of morale